All right, so in this video, we're actually going to be taking a look at this mock right here, Stormer's Crawler, which doesn't have a name just yet, so I'm just going to leave it at that right now. It's not 100% finished, but it's close enough for the sake of this video. And this was a bit of a challenge too, because I actually built it out of just one bin of parts and, you know, its extremities, if you will. And so, yeah, there was a lot of interesting stuff going on with that, but it obviously meant there were some things I couldn't finish, and I plan to do so afterward. So why did I make this? Well, as you guys may know, if you're familiar with Invasion from Below, we got two waves, and the first wave focused a lot on biped type machines, two-legged machines, two-legged, you know, beasts as well for that matter, while the second wave focused a lot more on crawlers, much like this one. This is actually pretty heavily inspired by Bulk's machine, specifically the drill machine. It actually has a lot kind of going on with it that is sort of taken directly from that machine, but also a handful of nods back to Stormer's freeze machine from Wave 1. The idea of this challenge was to give each of the characters who did not get a crawler or did not get a biped machine one of their own versions of each, if that makes sense. So this way, Stormer would have both a crawler and a biped, and hopefully that's something I get to continue for the other characters as well. So getting into the features of this build, it of course features the cockpit on the front with a body build that is very similar to Bulk's drill machine, mostly because if it's not broke, why fix it? You know, it's a really good machine design in general, and though there are definitely some things about that machine specifically that I think could be improved upon, here it actually kind of works in this one's favor, in my opinion. For one thing, I'm not a huge fan of the actual driller itself on there, especially with like the sort of laser guns that spin to spin up the drill. It's very strange, it's bizarre, but it does work at the very least. However, in this case, the spinner actually makes a little bit more sense because A, it's a nod to the freeze machine's weapon, which is also a pair of spinning ice blades, just like this one. But in this case, it also actually powers the stud shooter on the front here as well. So spinning this around will shoot the studs. That stud shooter should, in theory, be the only part of this machine that actually came out after 2014 as well. Don't quote me on that, but I'm pretty positive that that is the case. That said, it is also on a ball joint back here as well, meaning that it can be moved around quite easily, though one thing I would like to do, outside of adding another set of flick fire missiles to the other side, is also changing this to probably a friction pin of some kind so the assembly can fold back as well, just to kind of store it a little bit closer to the body. As it stands though, it works out really well, and of course it gives you that sort of front forward freezer, and the idea for this being that it can be paired, I'm going to take that cocoon off real quick, it can be paired with these blades on the front, which are not designed necessarily to pierce or harm the jumpers themselves, though you can see it however you want, but rather to pin them, to keep them from jumping, and then this can be used to sort of freeze them, to essentially steady them, take them back to a laboratory and study them. Currently, the machine itself does not have any method for carrying the jumpers. I guess you could theoretically put them in the claws underneath here, but rather those claws are designed so that the cocoon can be attached, which is also why the hero core is down there, because this just kind of fits around that hero core nicely, and then the points on the little spikes on the hands themselves will actually grab onto and in many cases go into the cocoon thanks to all of the holes that go around it, making it a very secure fit. And that's also one of the reasons why the legs are as long as they are. Secure fit. And the legs are as long as they are so that it won't just drag it on the ground. I'm going to see where that went too and try and grab it with my foot. Anyway, on top of that, just like all of the other crawlers from this wave, it has the ability to actually take the weapon off of the back, the tool off the back, and even swap it as well. In this case, you'd want to take the gray little attachment there too, just so you can get both. And hopefully, I just grabbed the flower pot. I did. Look at me go. Anyway. So I really love that piece. So yeah, it would obviously come with one of these, but the idea is that this was designed to roughly emulate what a $15 set would have been like back in 2014. I think this does a pretty good job. It has roughly the same number of armor pieces, maybe a little bit more, and obviously it uses the feet pieces from the heroes themselves as the lower feet to really help extend how far down the feet go. Plus, of course, those spike assemblies. But otherwise, the legs are identical to each other, though it's possible I'll add some friction adders in the back. They're not actually necessary. This has never collapsed on itself, but that's just typically something that Lego does. So maybe it would be a little bit more reminiscent of that, but not necessary by any means. The vehicle also gets one of the printed panels on the corner here. You could very easily use two if you wanted as well, since many of the vehicles from the second wave use two of the printed panels. But otherwise, yeah, the set is pretty well complete. I'm very happy with how it looks. Aesthetically, it's very similar to Bulk's driller machine as mentioned, but of course having the armor on the bottom helps to really sort of bulk it up a bit more, to, you know, use that word, right? And of course the character would fit inside the cockpit, but I'd like to add some stuff off the side here, maybe a data pad, maybe obviously the levers in the front here as well. But otherwise, I think it's pretty much good to go. I'm very happy with how it looks aesthetically and how well it represents Stormer's character, while also having the sort of heavy use of gunmetal that the Walker has, that his freeze machine has as well. I'm not a huge fan of it on the freeze machine, but I do like it quite a lot here. So I'm not complaining about it by any means. But yeah, I'm pretty happy about that one. Before I end this video, I wanted to take one more look really quickly too at Serge's machine, because I did forget to add something to the lower legs here. So if we actually open up the cockpit on the front, which has the roll cage, you can see that these weapons, these pick weapons, are on the front here, and those can actually be taken off and used in the hands. But the legs are supposed to have similar weapons, not the picks. There's a second weapon that came out around the same time with a buzzsaw on one side and a sort of spike blade on the other, and that's the version it uses on the legs with the spike facing forward. Because it goes just out in front of the feet here, it can work as sort of like climbing picks, you know, in the feet to kind of dredge into like rock, or more realistically into like decrepit buildings that have been taken over or abandoned or whatever the case, right? Because the idea is that this is climbing up like cityscapes, climbing up skyscrapers and things. And so those picks are not only useful in the legs themselves, but they also can be swapped out into the hands and used as melee weapons too. So you kind of get the best of both worlds, and you get a choice of weapons whichever way you go. With that said, that's basically everything with the Serge machine. And of course, if you want to check this video out, it is already out. I will link it at the end of this video that you're watching right now. But this one is obviously built a little differently, since this was designed to be more of like a $20 to $25 set on its own. So it's a little bit beefier than some of the other machines. With all that being said though, that's basically everything for this video. I did have a plan of making this sort of 2 videos in one, but I'm just going to scrap that idea, post a second video later, because it's not about Bionicle or anything like that at all, but that'll be coming out later today. Hopefully that's something you guys enjoy, and there might also be a fruit video coming out today too. So enjoy all of that, and if you guys are enjoying this type of content, make sure to leave a like and subscribe. It's the best possible thanks that you can give, and it tells YouTube that you want to see more content just like this, so maybe it'll treat your feed with more of my content. On top of that, you can join the conversation down in the comments below. Let me know your thoughts not only on these vehicles, but what you would like to see, both as vehicles or even as other beasts, because I am running out of a bit of ideas for the beasts themselves. I've got a couple though. And of course, you can join the conversation further over on Discord, Instagram, or support the channel over on Patreon if you'd like. That really helps out. And I will see you all in the next one. All that's linked in the description. Take care.